All right, welcome back to another episode of Realty Resilience. I'm your host, Dave Nations, and I'm excited to roll out another great episode today. We are going to be speaking with Kendlle. Kendlle has been working with Catherine and I for almost the last year with our Heartwood coaching company. And we met Kendlle a little over a year ago and learned about her background in marketing and branding. And at the time, honestly, we weren't necessarily looking to add somebody in, but what she offered and what we were wanting to do came together perfectly, and she's been helping us build the Heartwood coaching brand. We had never done any real public marketing previous to her, and she's helped get us out there. She's helped kick off this podcast. She's helped develop the brand overall, and so she's been huge in helping us build our coaching company and podcast, and then also a cornerstone course that we put together. She's been a big part of as well. So Kendlle, super pumped to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Awesome. If you wouldn't mind, you can probably do a much better job than I just did and give us a background on what got you into real estate. What got you into marketing? Because I think it's really the big thing I want to cover today. But marketing within the real estate industry itself. But give our listeners a little background on yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So originally I went to college in 2016, graduated 2020 with my bachelor's in marketing. So that was obviously a really awful time to graduate college. I didn't walk at my graduation. Everything went to online courses. It just was not a good time for, I guess, the job market in general because everybody was being laid off.
You say that was
So I
2020?
Yeah, it was 2020. It was May of 2020. So everything was shut down. I was working at a private airport at the time, and we were still going to work because we were considered essential workers, but it was still kind of like crazy in the world. And
You
I
guys didn't
knew
have a virtual graduation where you guys just walked through on Zoom? No?
No, no. So, I mean, a lot of people were doing like just graduation pictures, which is what I ended up doing. But I was like, I wasn't a big fan of walking at graduation anyway. So I wasn't heartbroken. But, so yeah, I graduated then and I was still working at this airport, had been there for a while. And I knew that I obviously wanted to be in marketing because I just graduated with that degree, but I couldn't find a job. I looked everywhere, just was unable to find anything. So basically I had a little bit in my savings, and I just basically made the choice to move from St. Louis because I went to college in St. Louis. And I chose to move back there with one of my best friends to North Kansas City and then look for a job. So I was like simultaneously looking for a job, and I was, starting to feel really discouraged, and I was applying to things that weren't marketing related. And I was, so my best friend, Paige, she ended up joining a Keller Williams and got her real estate license and became an admin for a real estate agent in the plaza in Kansas City. And so they were like, oh, hey, they need like a front desk person, a director of first impressions, agent services coordinator kind of combo. And I had no clue about anything real estate, but I was so desperate to get a job that I was like, sure. So I ended up applying. I went through their like four interview process, which, Keller Williams, if you know Keller Williams, they have a very long interview process. And so went through that and I got
Very thorough.
hired. Very thorough, very thorough. So I got hired and I was just kind of immersed in the world of real estate, still craving to do something creative, but I didn't really see anything that I could do at that point. So I basically had a lot of different tasks, and I started running their social media accounts because it was a dual role. So I did a lot of like agent paperwork, and I ran their front desk, I answered their phones, and I also was like running their social media accounts. Had never done that before, really didn't even have social media myself at that point. And so I got on Canva. Anybody who uses Canva loves Canva. So I got on Canva, started creating things, putting posts out, and the agents in my office started recognizing that, hey, you kind of have a knack for this. And I was like, hey, I guess I do. I don't know. And so started getting asked by agents in my office if I could help them with theirs. And I was like, sure, I don't really know what I'm doing, but let's figure it out. And so we did that. And so I got my first couple of like clients where I would get paid monthly by them. And then I would do, a few posts a week, sometimes 5 posts a week, sometimes 3 posts a week. And I became a social media manager. And then word kind of got around and it kind of started to not interfere with my full-time position there, but it was starting to be a lot to handle because I had multiple clients at this point. And I then just it kind of morphed into a business. And I was like, oh, wow. So I guess I'm a business owner now. And so then at a certain point, I quit that job for a little bit. And I think it was probably
Quit the job with the office or quit the job working for the agents?
quit the job with the office. I did that for, I think it was 6 months, but I was still there all the time doing my social media. So it was a really weird, and I would kind of watch the desk sometimes. It was a really weird kind of situation.
Let me ask on the agent side. So when you sort of transitioned into that, started doing business for the agents, and you mentioned doing social media posts. What was a daily routine or weekly routine that you were doing for the agents specifically? Just social media? Were you making flyers? Were you helping with website design and any of that kind of stuff?
I was doing it all. I had no clue how to kind of wrap my head around this business and have boundaries on what I would do. So I basically would do whatever they asked me to do. I did tons of marketing projects. I worked on their websites. I created flyers for them depending on kind of what the agent wanted. And then as far as social media, I basically had a 3 post a week package and then a 5 post a week package. And I basically just batch content created weekly. And I was just kind of paying attention to all the trends. At that point, video content was starting to become a bigger thing, but it wasn't like it is now. And so we were kind of starting to incorporate some of that and doing those funny kind of trends, but incorporating real estate into those trends. And, I would batch content create with the agent and record them. And we would basically just put these out on a schedule. So we had our content calendars that we were just very religious about sticking to and just trying to stick with the trends and make everything really cohesive and make sure the branding is on point, making sure the personality for the agent came through. And yeah.
So any idea kind of return on investment? Maybe you don't know the exact numbers. You're not the agent, right? You're doing the work for the agent. But could you speak to when you were working for them and you were doing these and they went from probably, I don't know, not consistent to 3 posts a week, 5 posts a week, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What were they seeing? What kind of results were they seeing?
So mostly they just were continuously interacting with the sphere they already had. Yes, of course, online you're going to be gaining more followers and more recognition, but just because it's out there online and you're getting those followers doesn't mean that they're in the area or that they're even quality at all. So as far as that, I feel like the agents that I helped just kind of created that almost stronger relationship with their audience, if that makes sense. They were recognizable. They were funny. They, especially on the funny videos where their personality was coming out, they got a lot of interaction. So I think they successfully stayed top of mind for a lot of people. But anytime, because that was actually a question I would get all the time, what's the ROI on this? Because all of the numbers people wanted to know that. And I had no clue what to tell them. And so eventually I was just like, you know what? I can't give you any numbers. It's different for every single person. It's different for how much of your personality and how much effort that the agent wants to put into it, because you can tell if somebody's super involved with their social media and showing their personality versus somebody who's, hiring a company, it's super impersonal. And you can just tell the difference in that. So eventually I just started saying it really depends. Like, I can promise you that whoever you already have in your following you're going to be top of mind, because you're going to constantly be posting and putting things out there. But I can't guarantee anything else unless I also have your cooperation, type of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, and I think the big thing is, I just quickly did the math. If I did 3 social media posts a week for 52 weeks, it's 156 posts,
Yeah.
right? So whoever that's going in front of, that's 156 additional touches that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
So to your
Yep.
point, it is the additional touches, the consistency, the awareness, getting in front of them. So I sort of
Yes.
derailed you a bit on the initial conversation around
Yeah.
how'd you get here, which is fine because I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit of what you were doing there. So you were doing that for agents and started building out social media campaigns for them. Where does that take you? What happens next?
So eventually it was, it's kind of a finicky business, especially whenever you're just doing social media management and things for agents, because unfortunately, during slow times with agents, business dips for them, and you're the first person they cut. Marketing is the first thing they cut. I'm throwing random statistics out there, but I always say 99% of the time it's the first thing they cut. So social media, they think that's not as important as everything else, and so they put that on the back burner. And so I had just very inconsistent kind of business. So at that point, I decided to continue my work on with Keller Williams and also do my business. So I was working just a ton all the time, but I was afraid of the inconsistency with those agents. So continued my work at Keller Williams while I was doing this, and then eventually I moved to a different office in North Kansas City, and I originally was supposed to be their assistant team leader. Didn't love that, and so we kind of morphed this
Had you
new
actually started
role.
that role, or you were being interviewed and then said, "Nah, it's not for me"?
So I started in like not as that of, I think they gave me a different title because I was doing agent services coordination and I was also doing assistant team leader things. So I was going on appointments all the time.
Yeah.
But I was not a good cold caller. I was just like drowning. And so at a certain point, we were like, okay, my skill set is clearly marketing. I literally have a marketing business. So let's figure out how to do this within the brokerage as well. So my team leader, my MCA, basically the CEO of the office for people who aren't at Keller Williams, we sat down and we made me the director of marketing. And so I started doing basically all of the things I was already doing, but within the office. So at that point, I stopped doing my own business. I gradually went off of doing my own business, and then I went full time in this role, and I loved it. I was doing everything super consistently. I was just in a very supportive role. I felt like I made all these connections with these agents, and within the office, like everything was more consistent. And so it was just really good. And I obviously love Keller Williams, and I loved being in that brokerage environment. And I just had a lot of support. And then eventually with that, I wanted to move back to St. Louis. And so that's when I started reaching out to different teams and brokerages in the St. Louis area. And then I got in contact with you.
Lovely. Okay, so curious. In your experience, you made a comment about marketing as first thing that people cut. I don't disagree. Why do you suppose it's that? Why not double down? Right? Marketing is easy because you don't work for me, you're not sitting next to me, you're not on payroll, so I
Yeah.
can see that. But at the same time, if we believe it to be a way for us to generate more business, and it's working because of my consistency behind it, because I think that's the key, why would I cut it? In your opinion, what do you think is the reason? So people, and I'm asking that not so people go do it, but to think about like this is why people are doing it, but really why they shouldn't.
So the reason why I think people do it is because, just like we were talking about return on investment, unless you're really into your analytics, you're not seeing that. You're not seeing the direct result of, like, figuring out that lead came because they saw your 50 posts on social media, even though they heard your name a long time ago and followed you. They're not seeing that. So I think that because whenever they're looking at everything and they're looking at their numbers, they're not seeing that return on investment. And so they want to do things, they want to double down and do the things that they know are working where they can see those numbers. And that's, maybe that's cold calling. It's different for every agent. Or, I don't, some people do paid ads. Some people, they spike Zillow leads. I don't know if they still do that, but like, they want to spend this money elsewhere where they can directly get, maybe some sort of lead to put into their pipeline.
It's easy to pay, and then Zillow gives me a lead, right? I give you
Yes.
$100, I get a lead. That was $100 for the lead. I'm putting it out on social media. I get 197 impressions, but I don't actually have like a physical buyer or seller. Therefore, I don't have like an easy trackable ROI.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I will say the people that were more involved in their social media, like the couple of agents that would, really want to be the face on their social media, the focus on the trends. They don't want everything to be cookie cutter. Those are the agents that tried their best to not cut it because they were seeing more results and they knew that. They were more invested in it in their time, not just their money. So those were the people that really, I guess, saw the value in it more than the people who just basically didn't contact me until they had to pay me and then were just like, put out some posts, which I had a lot of that.
Interesting. So it's kind of two schools of thought. One is I'm just putting something out there so I'm in front of people,
Yes.
right? Kind of throwing it on the wall and seeing what sticks. The other is actually actively involved and part of the process, and maybe actually the person in the videos or the post, as opposed to you just promoting, hey, here's the great events that we're doing this month, for St. Louis. And it's like, that's an easy touch. It's a good thing to put out there, but it's not you. And I think the biggest thing that we've heard over the years is being authentic, right? And so if it's me and I'm posting it, or you're helping me do that, and I'm doing a video about the market or this great ice cream shop or whatever it is, that's, you're getting me sharing that, and then the authenticity behind me, as opposed to a generic, post that's like, hey, here's this month's events, and it's just like a calendar, right? Yes, it's a touch, but the quality of touch matters too. Was that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, yes, it's so different. And I think the mistake that people often make, they do just put out these cookie cutter things. There's no personality. They have no idea who this agent is. They barely ever see their face, or if they do, it's just like that one headshot that they've had for the last 10 years. And, I think that is such a mistake. And I think that, going back, whenever I worked at Keller Williams in North Kansas City, there was this one older agent who was like, Kendlle, I just can't get into social media. I hate posting. I feel bad when I post about my business. I don't want to have these business only pages where I'm posting all these things, but I want to make these personal touches, but I don't know what to do. And then, so we got to talking, and she said, during the pandemic, to connect with people just in general, not even for my business, I went live on Facebook, on my personal Facebook, and I said, do my chores on the farm with me. And, people would tune in and watch her feed her horses and like do all of these things. But she said that she got a lot of business from that. So I was like, do that again. And she was like, yeah, but it's not really business oriented. And I'm like, do it again. These people know that you're a real estate agent. Remind them every once in a while, and then get on there and get in front of them and make those connections with them, because that still starts conversations. You just want to have conversations with people, and those are real conversations. And, she started doing that again, and it got a lot of people reaching out to her about things. And I was like, that just proves right there that you really just have to be super personal and authentic with your audience. Of course, it's different for everybody, but that really worked for her.
Right. It's relatable. So in your opinion, as the marketing branding expert, if I do one video where it's me and I'm out, outside doing whatever, it's just nothing fancy, right? It's not like in a studio all perfectly put together, but I'm out door knocking houses and I show a video, I'm a hot, sweaty mess, whatever. Versus, hey, I'm going to pay you and I need you to do 3 posts for me about, real estate in St. Louis. what direction are you recommending somebody to go?
It's hard because, I used to be that person that people paid. But I think that if you can only choose one, I would say do the more authentic video. Don't pay for the studio lighting. Don't do all of that. Of course, I think that it would be better to do both and have a great mix of both, of that personal and that professional. But if you could only do one, I would just do the most relatable thing for your audience, and that would be to post that sweaty video of you door knocking.
Well, and I feel like based on what you had said, right, it makes sense. So, and
Yeah.
I wanted you to, I figured that was the answer you'd give, and I wanted to ask that because I think that people think they have to pay somebody, it has to be amazing, it has to look
No.
good. At the end of the day, who you are is really what people want to see, and
Yes.
how people relate to you then is what is important, because I may not relate to you, Kendlle, the way somebody else does, and then somebody
Yeah.
else may, and then they're like, man, I love her. I want to have her be my real
Yeah.
estate agent because of
Yeah.
whatever that is, right? And I think that's the point of it to me, and I think we're all overthinking it. And I post pictures of my fishing trip I just went on, and I'll get,
Yeah.
every time I run into people, like, oh my God, I saw your
Yeah.
trip, it looked awesome. So people are seeing it. I'm not getting
Yeah.
like a ticker that necessarily comes back and says this is how many people want to buy or sell real estate from it,
Yeah.
but you're in front of them, right? And they're seeing what you're
Yeah.
doing. It strikes up a conversation, and that's all you're really trying to do. And then enhance your relationship with those people too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I say, be as personal as possible, and then, remind them every once in a while, oh, hey, I'm in real estate. And like, I know that seems annoying, but it's good to put that out there every once in a while. But like, just like pictures of your fishing trip, you are a normal person with a normal life. You're super relatable. And a lot of times people just see those like almost like cookie cutter stock type images of these realtors in their suits, and like they're in like people, I don't know, it just seems very inauthentic and just like an image that people are trying to portray rather than who you actually are. So I think that just makes you so much more personable and relatable.
So let's dive into this direction a little bit deeper. So I go from my posts on social media, their stock, their whatever, kind of generic 3, 4, 5 posts a week, but I want to really build a brand, right? And I want people to
Yeah.
recognize it. When they see that post, they already know, boom, that's Nations Network, or
Yes.
whatever the brand is. How do I do that? Because again, as an agent, I'm going, man, this solo guy, I'm like, this seems overwhelming. Or like, hey, I'm going to have somebody on my team do it, but they're not really an expert at it. And they're like, okay, but what's your advice into really building a brand behind the real estate agent?
So I actually love branding. I think that being extremely consistent in your, in your social media, your advertisements, your websites, everything that you do,
Consistent the way it
consistency.
looks.
Yes, consistent in the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it sounds, the tone, the colors, putting your logos strategically in certain places. You basically want everything that you put out to be your brand in some way, even if it's that, personal video of you, walking around and door knocking, and it's not super good in the way it looks necessarily, but you still want it to be consistent with your tone, who you are. Maybe at the end of it, if you want to throw your logo up into it or your colors or something, it doesn't have to be this studio edited type of thing, but you want to be consistent about everything. You don't want to put, 3 different static posts with different kind of colors and shapes and like things like that, because it in this day and age, whenever everything is like quote unquote Instagram worthy and things like that, you don't want it to look too scrambled and unprofessional. So there has to be that balance of where you're still yourself, you're still putting that video out there of that's like super real, but you also want it to all look, professional. Maybe if your branding is funny, like make it all kind of funny. Or if you're just really business oriented and serious, make everything that. It's just kind of how people want to see you. But you don't want to look like that person who is putting up all of these like random things. Nothing is consistent. It may be
But if that's
funny. It may
authentic,
be,
why does it matter? And I'm not
well, that's
saying
what I
you're
was going to say.
wrong
It
here,
may
but
be,
like if I just put something out there and it never really looks the same, but it's this video one day, and then I got this like headline over here that I did the other day, and really fast, quick editing kind of stuff. In your opinion, does it matter? I mean, it does matter to you. To me, I'm going, why
it
do I
does.
care? So why do I care if I'm you?
It does matter. You don't, it's like where there almost has to be a little bit of balance in it of professionalism and authenticity. You can be authentic while you're still being professional and while you're still building this brand, because like, yeah, maybe if you don't care about the brand, people still have wonderful businesses without social media. They still have that. But if you're going to be on social media, if you're going to be putting things out, again, everything doesn't have to be studio edited, and it doesn't all have to look good. It can be super authentic, but you still want to have consistency in who you are, maybe a mix of these different kinds of posts where it still looks good and strategic. Does that make sense? I know it's a little bit like push and pull on things, but you have to create a balance within it.
So where do you think most agents go wrong in marketing themselves in general? I mean, because I think about what you're saying here, and I think this is a tough one in creating a consistent brand, consistent look
Yes.
across the board. There are some that are good at it. I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, personally, like, I put stuff out there, and I'm like, oh, my mindset is like, well,
Yeah.
at least I put a video out there. But it
Yeah.
never, like, real nice kind of looking. So, where,
Yeah.
in your opinion, what do you think it is that agents are getting wrong when it comes to marketing themselves?
I feel like it just goes back to, like, I know I keep saying like authenticity, putting things out there that are consistently you, but also I think people just want to put something on social media. Like, I feel like everybody knows that that's kind of the direction that this business has been going for a long time. And so that's what I've heard from a lot of people, that they're just like, we just aren't posting anything. So we just feel like we need to put something out there. Just put something out there, post something. And they're just putting things
So it's
out
the
that,
something is better than nothing mindset. So I
yes,
can take a picture of
yes.
the garbage can, post it out there, and at least I put something so somebody will see my name.
Well, yeah. And so I think it's such a mistake, but a lot of people don't have the mindset for social media, especially people that have been in this business for a really long time, where they didn't need social media. It wasn't even really a thing. Or they just had like their Facebook page on there, and they would kind of post on their Facebook page a little bit and everything worked. So it's somehow bringing the authenticity into your social media. If you're going to do it, at least try to do it well,
So you
because
think what's
also,
lacking is the authenticity. You don't think agents
yes,
are being really who they are. They're just posting market stats or the
yes,
monthly update
yeah.
or whatever, but that doesn't tell me who you are. So if I want to
Well,
hire
yeah,
you, I'm a seller or a buyer and I want to hire you and I want to go check out your social media page, I'm looking to see who you are as a person. I'm not really, and maybe I want to see
yeah,
what you're posting, just generally
yeah.
speaking. But if it's just generic stuff and I don't really get to know you, then the chances of me wanting to work with you are a lot less. Is that what you're saying?
I I think so, because obviously you know that buying a home is a really emotional, big experience for a lot of people. It's the biggest purchase that most people will ever make in their lives, and by being able to, have that, I guess, like that personal touch with it and building that personal connection with that client, I think that you're going to have a lot better of a chance keeping them and getting them in the first place. Because if they see this like really cookie cutter agent, they're like, they have no idea who they are or who you are. And so they're like, do I want to put this really big personal, emotional experience in the hands of somebody like that? I don't know. And I know a lot of people don't think like that, but a lot of people do. So I guess it's just who you want to be.
So makes total sense. I got to be more authentic. I got to have a little bit more consistency in the way it looks. Again, I'm an agent that's doing everything, right? Start to finish, it takes you 180
Yeah.
tasks to complete a deal,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
now I've got 4 or 5 deals going on. I've got my buyers. I've got some coming soon listings. I don't have time to do a video with a nice background and all that. Like, this feels overwhelming to me, and I'm just
Yeah.
hypothetically speaking. I'm lucky enough that we've got a team of experts that can help us with all this stuff and and do create a really good brand. But if I'm listening to this, I'm going, God, that's great, but I don't. Where am I going to fit that in? How am I going to get this done? So, how do I prioritize this? What's your advice for somebody who's like, that's wonderful and overwhelming, and I don't have time for that? So when I get to a place where I can hire somebody, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. How do I chunk this down and make it more realistic?
So the good thing about this day and age, what we talked about this a little bit earlier off camera, but we have AI, and some people love it, some people hate it. You can use it to your advantage in a lot of ways. You can use it to create posts for yourself. You can use it to create captions for yourself, and it can do a lot for you. So just doing your day-to-day activities, if you're able to, kind of put on that hat while you're doing these day-to-day activities, you're trying to get a house ready to show or whatever you're trying to do, take a video. It's super easy to do. And again, it's not something that you want to put all the time every day, like a different video that's just like really bad quality, but you do want to put things out there like that if you can. I know that it seems super overwhelming to people, but it doesn't have to be. And also people can take those baby steps. So yeah, maybe it doesn't look great right now, but you can at least start on it, and in 6 months it's going to look a lot better if you consistently do it. Again, consistency in anything in real estate is super important, but you also have different platforms like, Coffee and Contracts. It's pretty cookie cutter with what you're going to get as far as posts, but you can take a few of those. You don't have to post them all the time. They're easy templates to just type in your information, put a few things out about things in your area, or just informative posts and be super selective with what you put out. Do you know what Coffee and Contracts is, Dave? So it's basically, it hands you all of these templates. Each month you subscribe to it. It's cheap. It's not anything crazy. There's a million different types of subscriptions you can get, and you can they're doing better with like being able to personalize those things to your area, to you as a realtor. You can do
my thought is, it's like, well, that's not very authentic, is it? I mean,
no, it's not. It's not. But again, it kind of has that balance of like, taking those templates that you have, making it a little bit more authentic, or at least area driven, such as like, like St. Louis, coffee shops, and then having a really personal caption that AI can help you write. And again, it's not perfect, and it's not exactly how you want to do it, but it doesn't have to be perfect, especially while you're getting started and you're trying to get to that point where you have time to do those authentic.
Right? Use something like this, get something, create some consistency, build off that, then move into, something more personal, more branded, more you. But at least you're starting with something, and start here and get that consistent rhythm going so people can see it, something that you can pay attention to and make part of your day. And then as you do that, then you can build off of that, as opposed to no social media to, I'm going to shoot a video every day, 5 times a day about, whatever.
Yeah.
That's not realistic.
Yeah. And you don't have to post everything permanently. That's a really good thing. You can get started on putting everything on your stories. Those don't have to be edited at all. They can be super choppy, and people will watch them, especially the algorithm. The more people do watch them and they come up for them, the more they will come up for them, and then they will consistently watch them. So it's almost like, day in the life videos, which everybody loves to watch if you're interested in that at all. So getting started with just putting things on stories, nothing has to be permanent. If that's what you're just trying to get started, you're a little bit nervous, you don't want everything to be put out there all the time, then maybe just put them on your stories. Have them be super choppy. You can be authentic without with being consistent with your branding without putting a ton of time into it. Obviously, the more time that you can put into it, the better. But again, that's not an option for everybody. Whenever you said it takes 180 tasks to close a deal, that's not always a big option for people. So you basically do what you can with the tools you have. AI can make it easier, but you just have to be really careful about when you're using AI, because a lot of times, we also talked about this earlier, a lot of times when you're putting these posts out, people can tell. So you just have to practice, practice makes perfect with putting these things out there and trying to come off as authentically as possible.
Yeah.
While still remaining professional and having a brand.
Gotcha. So then you mentioned AI a few times today. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking this is going to be part of this next answer. What should agents be paying attention to moving forward? Where do you see marketing going? AI is becoming such a hot topic, Chat GPT, all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's next in the marketing space in your opinion for real estate?
Well, just like you said, I mean, AI really is the thing to watch out for. I don't want to say it's taking over the world, and I don't know exactly how I feel about it all the time, but it is such a big tool, especially cutting down the time it takes to do certain tasks. I use AI for editing videos. It breaks up our podcast, our long form podcast video into short form clips. That would take me hours to do, but AI does it and it probably loads and takes 15 minutes. And then of course I go through because AI makes mistakes, but that's where it's going. That create you captions. It can create informative posts. You don't have to do as much research online to find good content for your posts because AI is super helpful. Again, you have to be very careful with that so it comes out as authentically as possible in the right tone, in your voice, but it can save you a ton of time, especially if you're a single agent, you don't have an admin yet, you're trying to do everything yourself. It can really save you a ton of time.
It'll also give you at least good ideas on content, right?
It does, yeah.
We were talking. I think you and I were talking about this earlier as well. In that put in a question, ask it. What should the branding or what should the video content be around? This house or how do I whatever it is you want to know. You can ask all kinds of stuff and they'll tell you.
Yeah.
What's the best return on investment for real estate?
Yeah.
In marketing as a real estate agent. Whatever. I don't know. I'm just off the top. I don't use AI enough yet.
Yeah.
I need to get more into it. So you think, and I agree. I mean, AI is really becoming the game changer in this space, hands down. So it's probably even spending a little bit of time every day just doing that and getting used to it and playing around with it and figuring out where you can integrate it into your business because if you don't have a team or you got a small team, it can create a lot of efficiencies for you pretty quick.
Yeah. You can virtually stage your homes if they're empty. I mean, you can do a ton of different things with it. And of course, I do feel bad that might take work away from some others, but it's really good. It can be a money saver and can be super efficient and effective for your business.
But if I learn how to use AI really well, it may not take away from me because if I'm the one that knows how to use it really well, I could create myself a position there. Okay, so before we wrap, I always love to end my podcast episodes on this question. What's the craziest thing that's happened to you since you've been in the real estate business? And I know you're not in the traditional seat as a realtor with a lot of people that I get to talk to on this podcast. So you're not out showing houses and have bizarre things happen or see bizarre things. But is there anything wild and crazy? And maybe not. If not, that's fine too.
It's honestly, I had something a little bit crazy happen to me, but it's not funny necessarily, but I did have at one point, I had been trying to get this client for a really long time whenever I was still in Kansas City. And I finally got her. I had heard really wonderful things about her. And so I was like ready to go. We met, we talked about a bunch of different things that she wanted, all the different platforms that she wanted me to post on. And in one of those, it was TikTok. And so, TikTok at that point was like, it was definitely going, but agents were just starting to get on TikTok. And so I hadn't really done a lot of that before. So I had a few things to figure out. So we talked about that, but it wasn't set in stone. It was more like let me think about it type of situation because it would have added on more money for her because it would have been more editing time for me. So basically she didn't say anything else about it. We got to going. I was really thorough with my contract that I had them sign. They gave like an onboarding fee because it just took a lot of, work to get this client ready to go. And so all this work, hours and hours worth of work. And so we started on our first month. We were about, I think 3 weeks into our first month, and I was sending her all of these videos to put on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. She was loving them. She approved every single one. Everything was great. And so I was, we were rolling. And so everything was out, everything was scheduled, everything was created. I had a calendar that she had already approved. And all of a sudden she goes, "Where's all the TikTok videos?" And I was like, we didn't talk about the TikTok videos. And so I was like, that's, we didn't even put that in your contract. And I thought, because you never mentioned it again, I thought that wasn't what you wanted anymore. So we had a conversation, and she was super combative, like a night and day difference from like how sweet and nice she was to almost psycho in a second. Which you're going to find that in any industry. You're going to find the crazies in any industry. Oh, but so finally I was just like, you know what, we're done. We're done. And so she was like, "I want my money back." And so I was like, "Ma'am, like you signed a contract. I delivered everything on that contract, and I was trying to be super thorough, because I was like, if this is in the contract, if something is wrong, I'm going to give her money back, because I don't want to be that person that's in the wrong." So I looked through and I compared it to everything I put out. It was good. I was good. And so I basically was like, nicely, like, "You're not getting your money back." And so I was like, everything is scheduled. We can complete this month, and then we can stop it from there. No big deal. Trying to work with her as much as possible. And she got her lawyer involved. And so I got contacted from the lawyer. She disputed all the charges. It was just like a big thing. I don't know if you've ever been through a dispute like that, but I had to take screenshots of everything. I had to basically prove that everything in this contract was good. And I was terrified. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to me." I was so young. I was so afraid. But finally, everything went through, and I was like, she's somehow going to win this, because, like, I'm the little guy here. Like, she's somehow going to win this. And she didn't. And I won, and I didn't have to pay her back anything. So it was fine, but I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
the moral of the story is why you have it in writing.
Put everything in writing. Have your contracts. No matter what you do, even if you're getting services from another person, you better sign that contract. You better be super thorough to make sure you're getting what you want.
I've ever heard of any sort of horror story happening, it usually comes down, or like, especially in real estate, when you're working on a deal, right? And somebody's like, "Oh, what about the fridge?" Well, it's not in writing. Well, we talked about it.
It's not, yeah. Well, and you know what? The last, like, funny, ironic thing is in that story is that she was a lawyer. Also.
Wow.
So.
Wild.
I hope she's doing well.
Me too.
Me too, yeah.
Maybe she's on TikTok now. We'll have to look.
Oh, maybe she is.
Well, Kendlle, thank you so much for your expertise today. And if people want to reach out to you and they have questions and they want to get more ideas that maybe you could help them with, or maybe they want to learn more about all the great things you're doing at Heartwood Coaching, how do they find you?
I mean, I'm just Kendlle Kennedy. Kendlle is spelled Kendlle. That's how my mom named me, and just Kendlle Kennedy on all of my social media.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us today. This was great. Hopefully our listeners got a lot of good nuggets out of what to do for marketing and real estate. And for those of you out there listening, thanks for following us. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for another episode coming up here. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Realty Resilience. Be sure to join our free Realty Resilience Facebook group where real estate professionals connect, share strategies, and access resources. You can also follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insights. And remember, we release new episodes every 2 weeks. See you next time.